Hey, happy Sunday night to everybody out there in Unlock the Middle Land. We are here on Sunday nights, as you know, getting a little better together each and every week. Just a little bit there, Principal Tovar. Listen, I'm Dean Packard. I'm the principal of Charlton Middle School in Charlton, Massachusetts. Alongside of me tonight, I have Josh Tovar from the great state of Texas. I do know Chris is still out playing baseball with his kids. I like that, Chris. We're going to get you back here eventually. We know how important that family time is, but that's not going to slow us down tonight because we've got another great guest we're going to bring on tonight that's going to talk to you a little bit about professional development, what it's like to be a principal, writing books, an author, just doing all the things that we do from our seat each and every day. So first and foremost, Josh, how are you, my friend? I know I just got back from my daughter's shower, which I think is kind of interesting because, you know what, mostly guys aren't allowed to go there, but dads, I guess, could go. I have to carry some of the gifts back, but I came back to watch the Boston Celtics defeat the Milwaukee Bucks tonight in a great basketball game. So now we're here tonight, ready to rock and roll. Josh, how are you, my friend?
Hey, everybody. Josh Tovar, proud principal of Memorial Pathway Academy in Garland, USA, Garland ISD here in Texas, North Dallas. Well, it's a eventful kind of closing of the fourth quarter for us over here in Texas. Graduation's around the corner for us, June the 9th. Our campus 6 through 12, so we're trying to prevent any kind of noise that might be out there, making sure it finishes strong, making sure that we're all together. And how we do that is by learning from each other. So we've been discussing in the last couple of weeks, professional development, literacy, and evaluations. I mean, that's been our common theme as administrators from around the country, and we've gotten input from everybody. So I think that today our guest is going to be bringing another valuable tool for all of us that sit in our chair that are preparing for the next school year. We're already preparing for 22-23. I know that you're talking about that you're already doing your budgets. I'm preparing for our PD, professional development, coming up. And this is a great, great guest to make sure that it provides us another tool in our tool chest to ensure that we provide all that support for our team members. Because you know what? The best gift we could give our kids, Dean, I feel, is a well-prepared, well-trained educator in the classroom. That's the best gift that we could give them. And right now, Rich is going to be a valuable tool for that situation.
Well, we talk about high-quality education. The number one resource in any building is the teacher. I want to tell you right now, they are responsible for connecting with kids, delivering content, but more importantly, making school fun for everybody. And again, that is quite a balancing job. There's no doubt about it. You know, I know last week we had talked about, strategic action planning. We talked about school improvement plans. We talked about just kind of streamlining what's important to make schools great. And I think tonight's conversation, we're going to be able to dive into that a little bit more and just find out a few other areas that really will help us click to become just a little better all around than what we do. So, hey, why don't I bring Rich in, and then we'll get a chance to meet him, and let's get into this, okay? The rogue leader. I'm really looking forward to that. Rich, welcome to the show. Glad to have you with us tonight.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Glad to be here and glad to talk some professional development.
Hey, so tell us a little bit about yourself, Rich. We know you're from Pennsylvania. You work in New Jersey, principal, K-5 building, author. You do a little bit of everything, but let the audience know a little bit about your background.
Yeah, so I started my career as a fifth grade teacher in New Jersey, Jackson, New Jersey. And, from there, I became an instructional coach, a technology coach. I eventually worked in curriculum as a supervisor, a director of curriculum, and then eventually found my way back to the building, which is what I was kind of missing, was interacting with kids. So ended up back as a building principal. I've been in a couple of elementary schools at this point. And I'm the proud principal of Yardville Elementary in New Jersey. So, wonderful pre-K-5 building, and get to be there with kids every day, and great teachers, great staff, great family. So it's an awesome experience.
I'm glad that you said that. And Josh, before I kick it over to you, I was kidding Rich a little bit before, and I said, you must be like a champion to those kids, because my school has fifth grade through eighth grade. And I know those elementary kids who attend love when I come around. Not so much as you get to the upper level, middle levels, but, from kindergarten, first, second, third grade, what a cool thing that must be to be around them all day long.
Yeah, it's fun. And my favorite part, honestly, is, being on the playground, in lunch, in the classrooms, being out there in the morning to greet everybody, being out there when buses are leaving at the end of the day. There's no better feeling than just greeting the kids when they're coming in, or seeing them when they're going home, and just saying, see you tomorrow, right? Because that's the best part, is seeing them every day.
Yep. Setting those seeds. Josh, kick it over to you.
So, Rich, real quick, can you help us out? Can you show the cover of your brand new book there so everyone could see it?
Yeah, so this is the new one, Rogue Leader. Make the rules, inspire others, and take control of your own professional development destiny.
Well, based off of that title right there, we've had some comments in our past couple of sessions where we discuss how when us as administrators or our team members go to central office, they still give us a 20th century factory style PD. They talk and talk and talk, but all that talking is about engaging kids when the whole lesson for us to train them is totally opposite of what the vision is. So based on some of the concepts in your book, can you let us know how can they at central office and us also, some administrators, start changing up PD?
Yeah, so there's a quote from the book where I say that professional development should not be a museum of our past practices, and I think in a lot of cases what you're describing is 100% true, right? We see a lot of sit and get, everybody come in, everybody sit on the benches in the cafeteria, listen to somebody talk for an hour, and I think it's really more about providing flexible, on-demand options for teachers. Giving them, learning before a meeting where they're, watching a video, reading something beforehand, and then really utilizing the professional development time for discussion-based learning, right? And I think that's often how we learn best is when we're, talking through ideas, talking through solutions, talking through problems with our staff. So I think there's a lot that you could do as far as professional development. It's really about providing options and a lot of variety and choice for teachers, and really inspiring others to kind of, take control of their own PD. And I think that's the message here is, how do we get people to kind of take control of their own PD? I know as an educator, I just assumed it was my principal's job when I started as a teacher to professionally develop me. And I realized quickly that she had 15 brand new teachers in the building at the same time that I was there. And that was not something that was going to happen. So it's important, that everybody gets out there and learns about PD on their own.
Rich, I'm going to ask you this. It's kind of connected to that same question. How do you go about within your school or within the scope of your book to try to elicit feedback from staff on what they might want for that voice and choice? We talked about that as a teacher in a classroom to give student voice and choice, but now you're handing that over from the administrator, who's the teacher of the building, and giving their staff that same type of voice and choice. What does that look like? Give us some examples.
Yeah, so I think it could be as simple as surveys, right? So if you're sending a survey out at the beginning of the year, just asking everybody, what is it that you need this year? For me, it's a lot about daily conversations, right? So conversations that I'm having with staff members on a regular basis, and I remember this person said this. Now it's coming up in the second and third classroom of teachers that I'm talking to. This is something that we need to address within the building. So, I think it's conversations, it's surveys, it's really talking to people and just finding out what it is that they need. I think a lot of times we see teachers doing wonderful things within our building. It's, tapping them on the shoulder and saying, hey, love that lesson you did the other day. Would you mind sharing that with colleagues? Because I think that would help your colleagues. And it's really about that collaboration piece, right? Finding the colleagues that are doing the work in the building, getting them to share, getting them, to be the experts in the building for their colleagues.
And building that culture and, making sure you're going to support them for doing that. I mean, that's a leap of faith sometimes for colleagues to do that to colleagues because they want to make sure, number one, it's going to be accepted. But number two, once you break down those barriers, schools just become really, really good. And I love seeing that.
Yeah, I think it was difficult in my first year kind of coming in. Teachers weren't necessarily used to, seeing someone in the classroom all the time. And I quickly had to just say, like, listen, I love being in the classrooms. I love seeing what kids are doing. I love seeing what you're doing. It's not really about, gotcha. I'm not coming in to, kind of, shake my finger and say everything that you're doing wrong. But really it's about feedback and conversation and how can we make this better for everyone? How can we make it better for the students? How can we make it better for the teachers, for the families in the building? And, that's really what it's about is taking advantage of everybody that's in the building, right? What are you doing here? What can you share with someone? How can you share it? How can you share this so that that person is going to learn? We have also done some wonderful things with teachers and students learning together, right? And that's what's amazing about professional development.
Continuous improvement, whatever cycle that looks like administratively from a teacher end, student end, it's all good stuff. And I've always said, you know what? teachers can read. If I put together an agenda, they can read that. So why don't you have some sort of action-oriented opportunities for them when you're going to have their time? Make it meaningful like anything else. And if you do that, great things happen. Josh, kick it back to you if you want to take number 2.
Yeah, so right now, as we're taking into consideration the whole aspect of our team members being active participants in implementation of professional development, if we get it down to the root of the people that we work with every day, just like you mentioned, Rich, you go into the classroom and you see an aha moment to where they could share with their colleagues. There has to be a foundation in regards to that connection between you that sits in that chair and your team members, that bond to where they believe in you. Like you said, I'm not here to gotcha, how to get you. So that's created by them believing in you. So how do you do that, and how do you connect that with the staff well-being daily within the walls of your home?
Yeah, so I will be the first to tell you, it is not about the title on the door, and even in the title of this book, Rogue Leader, that does not mean only administrators, right? So a leader can come from anywhere within a school. It can be the principal, it can be the secretary, it can be the teacher, it can be the custodian. Anybody's a leader in that school. Students are leaders in that school. So, for me, it's really about modeling for teachers, especially, that well-being piece. And I've said to a bunch of our teachers, this is the most difficult year they will ever see as an educator. And at times it has been about, canceling the staff meeting when we need to, because everybody needs a moment to breathe. It has been about giving people the time that they need. So, finding, subs has been another issue in buildings, but when we do have extra subs, giving that extra sub to a teacher to say, hey, take 40 minutes, whether you need to do some lesson planning, whatever it is you need to do, you need to grade some papers, or even if you just need a moment to breathe, take that time. And I think that's been the biggest piece, is modeling that. Trying not to send emails to my staff after 5 p.m., waiting until the next morning to send it, And I think for teachers, I think they've appreciated that. I think everybody in the building has appreciated, just the focus on well-being. We actually kicked off our year this year with a meditation piece. So we had somebody come in, he did a 30-minute meditation. When I tell you, it was the most relaxed I have ever felt in my life. And I know our staff who went through it also felt the same way. They appreciated it. So that's how we kicked off the year, and we've been trying to focus on it ever since.
As you're engaging in that capacity with your staff, and you're recognizing the things they need, and kudos to you as a leader, because I think the greatest leaders out there recognize the moment, make adjustments in the moment. You said canceling a staff meeting. Yeah, I've done that before. It's 85 degrees outside, or it's 80 degrees outside, springtime. It's been a long year. Go ahead, but you're still responsible to follow through and look at the agenda that I put out for you. But those little things mean so much to keep the morale in your buildings really solid, because you got to remember, and for most of us, we've taught before. We get that. If you're sitting in the principal's chair and making those decisions, knowing what that can have the greatest impact, that goes a long way. So let me ask you this: what do you do? In every building, there sometimes are pockets of pessimists, we call them, the ones who they don't see it the same way that we do. And I don't want to say in a bad way, not always, but just that we'll call them the edge people, the fringe people, and just trying to get them on board. Talk a little bit about how your book actually kind of gets them and kind of bring them forward.
Yeah, so there's an entire chapter in the book called Pushing the Pessimist. And it really is about finding a connection with the naysayers. So it's figuring out why they're pessimists in the first place. And, one of the questions I ask in the book is this the person that's a pessimist about everything? Doesn't matter what it is, no matter when you talk to them, you hand them a crisp $100 bill, they're mad at you because you didn't give them $200, right? So is it just somebody who's naturally a pessimist, or is there some experience that they've had that is causing them to struggle with professional development? And I think once you start making that connection, those voices can actually be more important to improving our professional development, because often the pessimists are the people who realize, no, you know what, there is a problem with professional development in our district or in our school, and these are the problems with it. And I think once you start listening to those people and hearing what the problems are, you can very quickly turn those problems around. So I think the pessimists can have important voices. I think sometimes they don't feel like they have a voice. And I think when you can kind of connect with them and really find out what it is that they're looking for, what they're seeking in professional development, I think that can aid the improvement of PD within the school.
And while we're on the PD topic, one of the things, am I thinking of a mindset of a teacher? What they don't want to see is PD coming in and vacillating in and out to different things, not staying connected to the same thing. And over my 28 years in education, so many initiatives have come and gone. And, if that PD has direct correlation to a strategic action plan, a school improvement plan, and you are just building a core of just understanding and connectivity, then it's all good. So how does that, when you're thinking about PD, is the PD that you're doing within your building really connected to everything that is expected of those teachers?
Yeah, I think it has to, I always look back at the big picture, right? What is the big picture for what we're trying to accomplish with our students? And I think if everything is going back to that, I'm a firm believer, I have 2 meetings a month with our teachers. One of them is a school staff meeting. The other is something called PD Lift. I'll talk about that in a moment, but it's really connecting everything that you're doing to your main vision, to your main, big picture idea. So if it's, let's say this is the year that we're working on reading and how we're improving reading, how we're getting every student engaged in reading, everything that you do should be tied back to that. So, in addition to our staff meeting, we also do something called PD Lift. LIFT is an acronym, Learning and Innovation from Teachers. So the idea is connecting with other teachers in our district. So we actually have 3 buildings in our area that are very close to each other. My building, I only have 2 of each grade level. So a couple of years ago, I hired 2 kindergarten teachers at the same time who were first-year kindergarten teachers. And it was kind of tough when they're staring at each other every day, trying to learn from each other, being new. So what we did is we connected them with a couple of kindergarten teachers from 2 other buildings that are near us. We try to meet once a month and connect those teachers so that they can get ideas from outside the building. And it's been powerful growing opportunity for our teachers and for, even the administrators who are involved as well, is learning from each other. And I think when we're taking that expertise from the people who we can connect with on a regular basis versus, the one and done, the consultant that you pay to come in and they're there once and then the teacher doesn't have the chance to ask them questions or talk to them later on. I think it can be important to bring that expertise from within the building or within the district.
I love that horizontal connectivity of best practices and just helping each other bloom. We have a district that has 2 sides, so there's 2 towns. So we do that horizontal planning all the time. And you can use the tools you have now with Google Docs, Excel. You can do Meets. It doesn't matter. The world's a smaller place. But what it does, it gives validation to the job that you do, and it allows you to share out and pick up new tools. Love it. You're spot on. And I'm not going to lie to you. I'm going to pick that up, and I'm going to look at PD Lift, and I'm going to use that. So I love how that sounds, and I'll tell you what, it's just exactly something that every school needs to have.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's funny, when we were trying to name it, we talked about lifting each other up, right?
Yeah.
And that's where that acronym came from. So it just fit, right? We're trying to lift each other up in other buildings and connect with each other. So
that's the coaching aspect. I love it. Josh.
Rich, right now, as you're discussing this, and we're getting back to this disease that shook us for a couple of years, we're noticing that people are going back to their old habits, what they know. So here we had in the middle of the corona, we had people saying, time to blow it up. Teachers adapted. They used technology. They learned a whole new trade in the middle, building their airplane as it was flying. And we're heading back to old systems. And you know that a lot of that stuff comes from top down, even from our chair down. So in regards to professional development, how do we avoid a principal, an area director, a superintendent going to a conference this summer, seeing something and bringing it back and making that what they got excited about, making it the thing? And like we said, we don't want something that is 1 year. We need to have an idea that's sustainable for the vision of the campus. So how do we avoid that whole, the buzzwords, the systems of du jour?
Yeah, and I think that's tough. I know we did something at our last staff meeting, and it was very simple. I gave everybody 2 sticky notes. One was an orange one was a blue one. And I said, I want you to write 2 things on here. On the orange sticky note, I want you to write what worked this year. What did we implement? that was new over the past 2 years that has worked and we want to continue with. The second note was the blue note. And on there, I want you to write what has not worked. Now, everybody had a super easy time writing down what has not worked, right? It was everybody was filling those blue notes like crazy with everything that didn't work. But then it's taking those ideas and then moving them forward. I think as far as going out and finding, new topics, let's say you go to a conference over the summer and you're in love with something, you're going to bring it back to the building. It's really in the support piece, right? You could bring anything into a building, but how are you supporting staff in that learning, right? So if it's something that, is a good idea, if it's a new reading initiative, if it's something that's going to work for students, I think that's great. But really what you have to do as a leader is figure out how am I supporting teachers in that? What am I going to be able to do to coach them through this? What type of support or resources can I give them? And I think once you kind of figure that out, like I said, if it's a good idea, that's great. But it's really about that support that you're giving teachers on the back end.
So Rich, just in case a brand new assistant principal is hired right now, or in 2 weeks, a brand new principal is being hired for a brand new campus starting 22-23. With your experience and all the connections that you have through conferences and presentations, how would you break it down for someone that's new to the job, new to our chair, implement that? What kind of advice can you give them?
Yeah, that's a tough one because I think, becoming a first-time administrator is one of the hardest things that you could do, right? There's such a learning curve. I think that the number one thing is just talking with other administrators, right? Connecting. I think about, I did a book signing yesterday, and I had two other principals who live in the area stop by to chat. And those conversations are super important. And it's often you can't have a conversation with somebody who's not an assistant principal or principal to understand what it is that happens in a building on a regular basis, right? And so I think those conversations are important. I think that advice that you could take from other people are important. But I would say start small, right? As far as professional development goes, listen to the people who are around you. What is it that they're looking for? I changed when I started looking at professional development in one of my former districts. I would show up at meetings and I would try to do something different at the staff meeting. And I would stand there for 40 minutes sometimes with people just staring at me, not saying a word. And then I would drive home, and the whole way home, I would be like, okay, what am I going to do next time to try to engage them in this? And it was like a 2-year process of, I don't want to say battling, but really figuring out what was going to drive teachers to learn and to engage in our professional development. And I'm proud to say we really changed the culture around PD, but it was in those daily conversations. So if it wasn't in the staff meeting with 40 people in front of me, it was then a 10-minute conversation here with a single person, a 5-minute conversation there. I would use those PD surveys to find out exactly what people want and need as well. And it's about listening, right? I make that point in this book, in my first book, The 4 O'Clock Faculty. Feedback is only good if you use it. So, I've seen administrators, they do the surveys, they get all the information back, and they don't like the information that they get back, right? They don't like the feedback that they're given. So it's really about then taking that feedback and using it, even if it's something that you don't like, and like sometimes you have to admit, all right, I get it. The teachers are right here. This is something I've done wrong. It's putting that ego to the side and saying, this is going to improve it for everyone.
And I also say less is better. Less is, when you're listening, and if you can redefine it and knock it down to 3 or 4 things to really focus on. I even think 4 is too much. I sometimes look at strategic action plans and I have 10 items on there that you're working on. My gosh, pick 3, pick 4, let them overarch into the schools and allow that current of momentum to start becoming stronger, and then support the heck out of it with PD.
Yeah, I have a quote in the book that says PD doesn't have to be complex in order to be effective. Right. And I think that's the piece is, start with one thing, right? What is it that you really want to focus on this year? Let's tackle that, right? Let's say it's a problem. Let's say it's, a new initiative, something like that, but tackle one thing and start there and then build yourself up from there.
Rich, what do you think some of the issues are with schools across the country that, not recognizing that the real rollout of PD and what it should be like? What do you see as maybe some of the potential roadblocks for schools to go from good to great?
Yeah, I think one of the issues is just the time piece, right? That's probably the biggest issue in most schools is where do we find the time to do this?
Yep.
So, I'll take my school. I have 2 meetings a month, right? So we do have other PD days that are kind of built in, but I think if we can give teachers more time to, converse, to discuss, to figure those things out themselves. I think the other piece is trying to get PD to be embedded within the day. So if we can do instructional coaching, I know within my district, we don't have instructional coaches. And I think that's one of the kind of the glaring needs for us is somebody going into the classroom other than myself, to kind of coach up and help teachers kind of work through in the classroom, sit down with students, sit down with teachers and really get moving on that. So I think those are probably the 2 biggest pieces is, when do we find the time and how do we really coach teachers through these different initiatives?
I love to hear, and I love to see schools that still have the budgetary ability to have those type of people within their schools to help teachers throughout in the normal day. That makes a lot of sense. The math coaches, literacy coaches, anybody like that. You got co-teaching models going on in schools to do it right. You need to have feedback all the time. But as these cuts start to happen across the districts, across the country, guess what? Those fringe opportunities are the first things to go. So, I know we do our PD calendar. We try to do a lot of half-day stuff. So it's within the confines of their regular day, which works out well too, because nobody wants to stay longer than they have to, and we get that. But when you sign up to be a teacher, like anything else, it's a vocation that it doesn't stop when you leave school, because the greatest educators, their minds are spinning all the time, thinking about ways to connect with kids and ways to become better. We're not making widgets where we are. We're always evolving.
Yeah, the first book that I wrote, The 4 O'Clock Faculty, the name comes from my partner who started the website with me, 4o'clockfaculty.com. And it came from his dad. His dad was a lifelong educator, 35 years. He was a teacher, a supervisor, a principal. He made it up to assistant superintendent before he retired. And when he was hired for his first job, it was a unique situation where he was applying to a building that was brand new. So the principal of that building had the opportunity to hire the entire staff, right? Which, as a principal, when you have that chance to build your staff from the ground up, right, you can appreciate that. So Trevor is my partner. He went and his dad went and he asked the question. He got through the interview and then he said, "Do you have any questions for me?" And he said, "Yeah. What time do we finish school?" Right. And somebody who's asking that question, it's probably not a good question to ask a principal. And so the gentleman said, our school day ends at 2:15, but we are a 4 o'clock faculty. And that was the idea that everybody here is going to go above and beyond for our students. And that kind of stuck. And when I heard that story, I knew that had to be the title of our website and the title of the first book, right? Because it is about those teachers who are going above and beyond for their students. So, it's something that time is difficult, but it is about, finding that support and getting teachers to extend themselves for students.
Rich, aside from the Rogue Leader, talk just a little bit about the 4 O'Clock Faculty book and what inspired you to write that, and some of a couple key takeaways are.
Yeah, so Rogue Leader is really a follow-up to the 4 O'Clock Faculty. That was my first book about professional development, and it really spawned from just my experience with PD. As I said, when I was a teacher, I was looking to somebody, to my principal, to give me, here's your PD, right? And what I quickly realized is that's probably not the way it's going to work. I have to go out and find my own. And then the second experience was my first as an administrator. And we had a PD day on President's Day weekend. It was the Friday before, so everybody had off on Monday. And I was looking for one of our teachers. And so I was walking all over campus. We had all of our teachers on one campus and couldn't find her anywhere. So finally I found someone and I said, "Hey, I'm looking for this person. Do you know where they are?" And they said to me, "Oh, well, she took off today." And I said, "Well, what do you mean she took off? It's a PD day, right? Like everybody's learning today." And somebody explained to me, like, no, most people take off because it's a PD day, right? They make it a 4-day weekend. And I walked out there and I looked at our numbers immediately. And we were at like 33% of our staff who took the day off. And that was when I recognized what a problem it was, right? If people are not getting enough, and I didn't look at it as a teacher problem, I looked at it as an administrator problem, right? If we're not giving professional development that is good enough for people to come and want to be there, there's something wrong with what we're offering. So that was, in the district where I said we took about 2 years to kind of change that culture. We started doing ed camps within the district, and it really kind of changed. But, so the 4 o'clock faculty is really about that piece is how do we change the paradigm of professional development? How do we shift that culture, using ed camps, using staff meetings, doing all those things we can to really change PD and really revolutionize it so that teachers are benefiting from it.
Josh.
Hey, Rich, you write about in your book about one and done. What does that mean?
Yeah, so it's really those, and I'll give the example. We had a district initiative this year, which was SEL, and so we had a presenter come in. They did, in this case, it was 2 meetings, but 2 meetings this year where drive by. Let me give you 16 strategies. It happened at 3:30 in the afternoon. Teachers were on a Zoom meeting. They were overwhelmed. It's tough to listen at 3:30, and we didn't see that presenter again. We didn't have the chance to follow up with any questions with that presenter. And that's that one and done piece, right? Where, we see somebody, they come in, they share something, and then we really don't have the chance to implement. So, it's tough for teachers. It's tough for administrators to have to do that. And sometimes we're forced to, right? And I kind of understand where the district was coming from and trying to support teachers. But it's really trying to go beyond that, right? It's trying to make PD consistent. So, if you're introducing something at the beginning of the year, making sure that you're supporting teachers throughout the year with whatever that initiative is.
Now, Rich, do you have that embedded within your school improvement plan, your PD? So when you have your action steps, your PD is very concise on what you're trying to accomplish, like on a 3-year plan?
Yeah, so we typically, each year when our teachers are building their professional development plans, we typically have a district goal, a school goal, and then a teacher individual goal. And, generally I'm working, throughout the summer to figure out like, okay, what's the one thing that we're going to focus on this year? Sometimes that carries over from year to year. We try to be consistent with it. Again, this past couple of years has been difficult with that, right? Because we've kind of all been thrown into the fire. But it's really about supporting those, teacher goals and the building goals, from year to year.
Rich, I'm going to ask you a loaded question. What's next for Mr. Czyz? What are you going to do after you get done playing down at the elementary schools and doing your PD and writing your books? Where do you want to go? What do you want to be when you grow up?
Well, it's funny. I always say I want to be a Disney Imagineer when I grow up.
Reimagining. Go
but,
figure.
Yeah, it's writing is where I've kind of found my passion. So, I'm going to be working on a new book this summer, which will probably delve out of the education field a little bit. It'll kind of dive into productivity. And it's funny, the number one question I'm asked every podcast I'm on is how do you find the time to write, right? And that question came up earlier as we were chatting. And I think that's where I'm going to delve next, is into that kind of productivity piece and how to find and complete meaningful work.
Awesome. I think you're going to do just fine. And you know what? You have that revolutionary mindset, that reimagine, redesign. And the more you do that from your seat as a leader of a building, the more our buildings move forward and they evolve. Because I'll tell you what, too many places stay stagnant. Too many places are afraid to reach out of their comfort zone and to do something that is really beneficial to kids. And the way the kids are learning and those skills that they need as they're coming out of schools have got to change to match what the businesses are looking for. So why not start down at the early ages in K-5? Think about that. You're setting the seeds.
Yeah, it's really something that's needed, right? So we did something the past couple of years. It kind of got knocked over last year, but we did something called the Secret Society of Writers, right? So I'm passionate about writing, and I wanted to find my students in the building who were passionate about writing. So we did a secret society. We had secret meetings. We had the kids coming out, writing their own books. And it was amazing. And when I think about just the passion that students bring, whether it's writing, whether it's music, right? The kids who's learning to play guitar, whatever it is that the kid is passionate about, finding that, using that to drive, how we're instructing, how we're learning together. And like you said, it should be about shifting that paradigm for students and really helping them to find something that they're passionate about, that they love.
But also providing pathways. Think about what you're doing. Secret Society of Writing. Anyone can do it. Anyone. You don't have to be sitting in your English class, okay? If this is a passion of yours, tap into it. I think that stuff there is so important. And from our seat, you could throw that out in an email to your kids or whatnot, or just get it out there in front of everyone and see who wants to be part of it. Win-win across the board. Across the board. Hey, where can you find your book? If you want to talk for a minute about where you can find the Rogue Leader and for anybody who's watching this podcast on a repeat and a retweet.
Yeah, so available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, anywhere you're going to order books online. You can also find everything on 4o'clockfaculty.com, FOUR o'clockfaculty.com. And everything is there. My contact info is there. All 3 books are there. So everything can be found on the website.
Great stuff. Josh?
Well, I mean, this is one of those other nights where I just get hypnotized. I'm thinking. You see, Rich, I'm thinking already at our last
my notes.
Right, our last meeting, our last podcast, we were talking about this. I truly believe that the best gift that we could give our students is a well-trained educator to make sure that we provide that bell-to-bell instruction. Because without bell-to-bell instruction, that's where discipline happens. That's where frustration happens. That's where climate and culture take a dip. And it all falls on our chair to make sure that we well prepare everybody. Because kids also want to be fully engaged. If not, they're going to go back to what? This poison.
Yeah.
They're going to go back to this. If our team members do not provide that structure, and that's why it's crucial for me always that the number one thing that I could do is, number one, hire great teachers, but also make sure to prepare them for the classroom environment. And we know that right now, all of us, Rich, Dean, myself, everyone, we're having that teacher shortage. Yep. And we're getting a lot of alt-cert individuals that this is their second career, that they didn't go through the traditional pathway. And now more so, we need to ensure that we provide them with a professional development. So, Rich, you've set my brain on fire, because that's been a constant thing right now, because in the end, it's what we're doing to ensure success for our students, the future of America. So thank you very much for tonight. And thank you very much for your words and your books and your knowledge.
Yeah. And I have a simple saying is engaged teachers, engage students, right? And I think that's the biggest piece. When you can engage a teacher, in their own professional learning or even something that they're interested in bringing in, right? I think when teachers say I love photography outside of school. I wanted to try to do a project with my students on photography. What do you think? Absolutely. Run with it, right? Because if you're engaged in that classroom, if you're engaged, the students are going to be engaged as well, right? So I think as much as we can say yes and engage those teachers, it's a powerful thing for our students as well.
Well, you look at PD and you look at methodology. That is the one thing you control in a classroom. You can deliver any way you want to deliver. And the people that can deliver through multiple lenses reach multiple kids. And when you have that level of engagement, guess what you have? You have a teacher who becomes a facilitator and not an orator. You have a teacher that opens doors and doesn't give content to kids. They let them explore, let them be inquiry-based, all that stuff. I love talking about all that. And I think that's a whole nother episode, but great stuff here tonight, Rich. We really appreciate you coming on. And any last things you want to say to the people that are listening out there?
No, I just want to thank all the educators who are, every day working and doing their best for students. And it's a oftentimes thankless job, for administrators, for teachers, for everyone. But it's still an important job. And I thank everyone who does it on a daily basis. And, anyone who wants to connect with me any way that I can help, support, please reach out to me through the website and I would be happy to help and connect.
Yeah, we do the same thing here at Unlock the Middle. If you got something you want us to throw out there to our people that follow us, absolutely. We're all here to get better together. And that's the reason why the podcast started, coming up on 2 years now. And we've met a lot of people. We've gotten great connections across the country, and we're going to continue to grow, and we're going to continue to help out all those around us. So, hey, Josh, take us home, my friend. Talk a little bit about Thursday night, and let's get ready to roll.
Thursday night, the Red Zone. The Red Zone, we need you here at 9 p.m. Eastern, and we have a special Red Zone. You know, lately we've had administrators, people from central office, superintendents, but this coming Thursday, it's in the classroom level. We're going to be bringing in our classroom instruction, our team members who will be talking about their whole year. We'll be bringing them in to see how they're doing. Let us have some reflective thoughts. So if you're a team member, anybody else, come hear us this Thursday, the Red Zone, 9 p.m. Eastern, ready to learn from the people in the trenches, our awesome teachers.
It doesn't get any better than that. Hey, in the meantime, have a great week, everybody. We thank you so much for Rich being our guest tonight. But more importantly, continue to do what's right for kids, because that will define you as the person in your building. Folks, have a great night. Rich, stay on for a moment. Have a great week, everybody.